Good morning. My name is Lillian Govis, Buncombe County Director of Communications and Public Engagement. This is your community briefing for Wednesday, January 15th. We've moved to a once weekly schedule, so we're back on here on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. going forward. Today, we will hear from Jason Hyatt, Library Services Director, about operations modifications to some of our libraries due to storm-related county impacts to county revenues. We also have the city of Asheville here to provide updates from James Shelton. He's the community development manager. But first, we will start with our county manager, Avril Pender.
Good morning, and thank you, Lillian. Tomorrow, we will sit down with our commissioners to begin discussions not just on next year's budget, but also how the storm has impacted this year's budget. Unfortunately, we're preparing for revenues that will be less than budgeted, and that could be less by up to $20 million this fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs through June 30. You may have heard that we've implemented a hiring freeze on more than 80 vacant positions, with the exceptions of those in our 911 call center. That hiring freeze will save the county about $2 million, which is a start to fill that gap of $20 million. On January 25th, we're thrilled to be reopening the Swannanoa Library for the first time since Helene in September. But with 13 library vacancies, unfortunately, we cannot logistically open all libraries on their regular schedule. So that January 25th date also coincides with adjustments to library operating schedules, and that is for the near term. We'll continue monitoring our regular recurring revenue projections and make adjustments to our libraries and our services as we can. Today, joining me is going to be Library Services Director Jason Hyatt, who will provide more information on library operations shortly. Many folks have asked, why can't we just use a grant or a one-time infusion to restore full service? I can assure you that our finance team is exploring every option. Unfortunately, one-time funding streams are not sustainable options to fund recurring operations. Back to this all-day meeting tomorrow, not only will we be discussing our budget, but our school partners will be here with us as well. In addition to budgets, we'll be reviewing the draft of the school consolidation feasibility study. I hope you'll tune in at www.facebook.com/BuncombeGov to learn more. We do have some new information about assistance for Helene recovery. Starting today, Buncombe County residents who are impacted by Helene and who need assistance with home heating can apply for the Disaster Energy Assistance Program. This program can cover utility bills, deposits, reconnection fees, as well as repair and replacement costs, and other heating-related costs, such as insulation replacement and coats and blankets. To be eligible, you must have been impacted by Hurricane Helene and a Buncombe resident at the time of application and at the time of the disaster. You must also have an income that meets the 2025 disaster gross income limits, 60% of state median income. For example, this is a maximum monthly income of $5,247 for a household of 4. To learn more and to apply, visit buncombecounty.org. Applying online is the fastest and easiest way, but you can also apply in person at 40 Cox Avenue in Asheville or by calling 828-250-5500. We also have funds for projects that make homes more resilient. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or HMGP, is available to support property owners with funding for various mitigation strategies, including elevation, home mitigation, reconstruction, and acquisition. The program is 100% voluntary, and homeowners can withdraw from the program at any time. We understand that is a very involved program, which is why there are state representatives available in person this week to help navigate. There are at the Asheville Mall Disaster Recovery Center through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can find all the details about the program and the application for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program online at buncombeready.org. There are two important deadlines coming up for those needing assistance after Helene. Helene survivors have 3 weeks left to apply for FEMA assistance, which may cover rental aid, utility costs, and other disaster-related expenses. Apply by February the 6th at disasterassistance.gov, or you can call 1-800-621-3362, or visit the Asheville Mall Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Due to the devastating fires in California, phone wait times may be long. So if you are able to, going to the Disaster Recovery Center may be the best option. That same February 6th deadline applies for disaster unemployment assistance. Residents and businesses in Buncombe County and other affected areas may apply if their employment was impacted by Hurricane Helene. You can apply at des.nc.gov. Now, we know there have been lots of questions about the Transitional Shelter and Assistance Program through FEMA. As Buncombe County residents begin to transition out of FEMA Transitional Shelter and Assistance Program, or TSA, we would like to share some details on how this process takes place. People staying in hotels under TSA undergo eligibility reviews to determine if they can safely return to their homes. Transitional shelter and assistance will end only for families who are no longer eligible due to an inspection showing their home is habitable, declining an inspection, or not reachable by FEMA after several attempts. For eligible families, the program will continue through March 2025. The next eligibility review is scheduled for January 17th. FEMA encourages families and individuals in TSA to stay in touch with FEMA and read any letters they receive very carefully. There were 39 individuals identified who were unhoused before the storm, who are now considered ineligible under FEMA's Temporary Assistance Program to get TSA extensions. As inspections are completed, there may be others identified as inspections are completed, there may be others identified if there's no home to inspect. As of now, these are the only confirmed pre-disaster unhoused. There were 199 total individuals having identified as pre-disaster unhoused within TSA over the course of the programming section, so since September. On January 14th, the last 39 were transitioned out of TSA. I do want to share the outreach efforts that has happened before that January 14th date. One was hotel engagement. Flyers with information on resources, including cold purple shelters and transportation options, were distributed to hotel staff to share with affected guests. Outreach teams from our contractor Tetra Tech attempted to face-to-face engagement with those individuals to provide assistance. Efforts were made to knock on doors and slide resource flyers onto doors where direct interaction was not possible. For example, if they had do not disturb signs on their doors. Coordination with nonprofits, organizations like Evelyn have been engaged by the city and a continuum of care to support unhoused individuals transitioning out of TSA housing. Evelyn charities are helping extend housing options for a subset of these individuals. And on the transitional planning, FEMA continues to handle primary communications with households about program eligibility and exit requirements. Local teams are focused on redirecting individuals to appropriate services, including disaster case management and individual assistance options. We're happy to share that there's more support for survivors. The North Carolina Disaster Case Management Program is available to guide individuals and households in Buncombe County through the Helene recovery process. After you complete an initial needs assessment, A case manager will work with you to make a personalized recovery plan and connect you with available resources. To get started, call 844-746-2326. I'll fill out the North Carolina the DCM, which is Disaster Case Management Intake Survey, at buncombecounty.org. Again, you can start by calling 844-746-2326 or going to buncombecounty.org and filling out that intake survey. Steady progress continues to be made in removing storm debris from our community. As of today, Wednesday, January 15th, 741,903 cubic yards of debris has been removed from the public right-of-way in Buncombe County, Black Mountain, and the city of Asheville. Today, there are 34 trucks running in Buncombe County for right-of-way collection. Soon, you will see the cars, trailers, and RVs that were destroyed and dispersed during the storm in the public right-of-ways will begin being towed. This process is slightly longer as the titles of these vehicles will be researched and our contractors will attempt to contact their owners. In February, our contractors will start doing the same with those titled vehicles in waterways. Progress continues also to be made with private property debris removal. More than 2,000 property owners in Buncombe County have applied to get help with moving their debris to the right-of-way. This program assists property owners who can't move debris to the curb and lack adequate debris removal insurance. The intake centers are located at Black Mountain Public Library, Barnesville Fire Department, Swananoa Fire and Rescue, that is the Tree Substation, and Fairview Library. For more details or to apply, visit buncombeready.org. Now, updates on new trash and recycling pickup provider, FCC. The solid waste transition is ongoing, and I can assure you that FCC have seen and heard your concerns. They are working to address the delays in pickup, and some FCC customers have experienced by adding more trucks, bringing in more staff, and hiring more positions in their call center. During changes of this scale, it is typical for a new company to undergo a transition period where crews learn updated schedules, new routes, and procedures. In some cases, residents need new pickup dates or different recycling weeks than the previous provider. Customers can check their schedule at buncombecounty.org/solid-waste. If you have any questions, please contact the FCC customer service team at 828-820-7022. Again, the FCC customer service team is 828-820-7022. We also have an issues tracker available at buncombecounty.org/solid-waste, where you can note issues with collections, Vaseboro cans that still need to be picked up, or debris that is in unsafe areas. You can also call Wastepro at 828-585-5074. Again, that number is 828-585-5074. We recognize that changes like these are never easy, and we genuinely appreciate your patience through the transition. And lastly, from me is just a note on community care stations. Our showers, laundry, bottled water, and more resources are available in our most impacted communities daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're located at Bethel United Methodist, Fairview Ingalls, Owen Pool, and Morgan Hill Baptist Church. We don't have any changes to report at these locations at this time. And with that, now I'll turn it over to Jason Hyatt, Library Services Director.
Thank you, Avril. Let me start by saying that I wish I was here to share news of extensions of services and programs, and I look forward to the day when that can happen. But like every other department in our organization, library staff have been working to create a plan that sustains our services in the wake of unprecedented challenges. It's a plan that prioritizes keeping all of our library locations open, maintaining youth services and early literacy programming at every location, And it also ensures that Buncombe County meets the State Library of North Carolina's minimum standards for service hours, which allows us to receive more than $288,000 in state aid in the next fiscal year. Library administration began meeting with our branch managers in December to develop a plan that creatively and equitably serves our community. We knew that with our 13 vacancies in library services, as well as the hiring freeze, we simply could not operate all branches on the current schedule. With the devastation experienced in the Swannanoa community, bringing that library back online was a priority, and so we're very happy to share that that branch will reopen on January 25th. Of course, staff at that branch had previously been working in other locations, so reopening means that combined with the vacancies, there are some cascading impacts. And with that, some of our other branches will move to a modified schedule. Our most utilized locations will continue to remain open 5 days a week. Those are Pack Memorial Library, East Asheville, Inca Candler, North Buncombe, Skyland, South Buncombe, and West Asheville. And with this, every geographic region of the county will have a library that's open 5 days a week. 4 of our other libraries will move to 4-day service. Those are Black Mountain, Leicester, Fairview, and Weaverville, and they will be open Wednesday through Saturday. And finally, 2 branches will be open 3 days a week. Though they are smaller libraries, the Swannanoa and Oakley libraries are beloved in their communities and will be open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We've been working with our Library Advisory Board, the Friends of the Library, and the Trust Fund for Buncombe County Public Libraries, and we're thankful to have them at the table with us in thinking creatively in our recovery to the storm. We all love our libraries, and we love that public libraries are for everyone. And one day we'll be back to share exciting news about expanded offerings. That'll be a great day, not just for our libraries, but for our community as a whole, as part of our recovery and our flourishing in the wake of a devastating disaster. I do want to end on a bright spot. One piece of exciting news to share is that all 12 of our libraries have a new resource for beginning readers, and that was made possible by a $10,000 donation from the Trust Board for Buncombe County Public Libraries. That donation provided a set of 60 Stairway to Codables from Capstone Publishing for every library, as well as new display racks for the collections at several locations. If you're curious what decodables are, they are phonics readers designed around the science of reading. And we're super excited to add those resources to our collection as part of our strong commitment to early literacy. You can visit your local library to ask about that collection. And as one last reminder, our digital library is a resource that's available to everyone 24/7.
Thank you, Jason. I know that I love going to our Black Mountain Library after the farmer's market on Saturdays, and I'm thankful to be able to keep a little normalcy in my old weekend routine. At this point, we'll turn it over to James Shelton, Community Development Program Manager with the City of Asheville, for an update on their end.
Thank you, Lillian. The City of Asheville is a participating entitlement community in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Grant Program. We receive about $1 million in annual funding through this program. This allows Asheville to make investments in local priorities like affordable housing, public infrastructure, and community services, and targets those investments to low to moderate income neighborhoods and to the benefit of low to moderate income residents. We're currently accepting applications for this year's funding on our website until February 7th. On January 8th, HUD announced that the state of North Carolina would receive $1.4 billion and the city of Asheville would receive a direct allocation of $225 million in CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, disaster recovery funding. This is a result of the continuing resolution passed by Congress in December. CDBG DR is not a statutory program, which means that Congress has to make funding decisions for specific disasters. The funds allocated to the state will be directed to projects across disaster-affected communities across Western North Carolina, including right here in Buncombe County. This is a historically fast allocation of CDBG DR funding. Other disaster-affected communities have waited years for this type of assistance. The city of Asheville is very grateful, and we want to thank both the state and federal governments for their swift response in approving these much-needed funds. CDBG-DR funds must address unmet disaster-related needs in our community. The funds can be used to support programs and activities that address housing, economic revitalization, and the restoration of infrastructure. We know that disasters like these can disproportionately affect historically marginalized communities. These funds will primarily be invested to benefit individuals and areas of Asheville whose residents are low to moderate income. HUD requires that the city submit an action plan that includes an unmet needs analysis. We are right now analyzing data from multiple sources, including FEMA data, to understand the impact that this event has had on our community. The unmet needs analysis will inform what types of programs and activities we will focus on funding. As part of the development of the action plan, public participation will be a main component of the process. Community engagement opportunities will include the following. The city is launching a recovery survey later this week to capture residents' thoughts on what matters most as recovery priorities are established. Our residents' participation in that survey will help inform CDBG-DR programs. We will also host at least 2 in-person and 2 virtual town hall meetings to provide information on this program and to get input from residents, businesses, and other partners and stakeholders about the program. More information to come about locations and times. We will also make additional information available on the city's website soon, where you can find information and track the progress of the development of the action plan, as well as the allocation and expenditure of funds once the plan is completed. We will also engage with Asheville City Council to gather what they have heard from constituents about our community's needs and priorities. The action plan will be drafted and published for public comment in March and submitted to HUD in April. HUD will then have 45 days to review and approve the plan. And HUD also requires that the city complete a grant compliance and financial management certification to ensure proper management of these funds. The planning process will take several months, and we anticipate being fully approved by HUD and receiving the grant funds later this summer. We will then start funding projects. HUD requires that we spend down these CDBG-DR funds within 6 years of receiving them. The road ahead will be long, and these funds are intended for long-term recovery and resiliency. The city of Asheville looks forward to hearing from our community and developing a shared vision for the future of this wonderful place we call home. While we are grateful for this funding, we know that it will only be a part of the overall recovery of Asheville. We are excited to continue to work with our community, as well as our state and federal partners, to build back better and make our community more resilient. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Nice job with the acronyms. At this point, we will turn things over to questions from the media who are joining us on a separate Zoom link. We also have City of Asheville's Assistant City Manager, Rachel Wood, here to answer general questions from the city. So we will turn things over to our media partners now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, good morning, Lillian. I have a few questions, mainly based around FEMA. I would like to know, do we have a ballpark of how many people in Buncombe County are still waiting for help from FEMA, especially with the deadline coming up?
Is this Madison?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Right now, we don't have a ballpark. So remember, the folks who are exiting the program, those are the ones whose houses have been inspected and found to be inhabitable. And so we're continuing to be in contact with those folks. Be sure if you're getting calls from FEMA, return those phone calls so that they can follow up with you. You can also go through our disaster case management program, but I don't have the total number for you.
Even outside of the TSA program, just numbers in general, how many people are still waiting for even money, inspections, any of that?
That is going to be a question for the FEMA news desk, and I can shoot you that email for them.
No problem. Also, I do have one. At one point, we heard that about 400 people were approved for the FEMA trailers, and we're still not seeing very many come in. How is that looking with thousands of people still in the TSA program?
Okay, Avril is on her way back up to help answer that question for you.
Hey, Madison, as Lillian mentioned, we will have to follow up with FEMA and get some answers for you specifically on numbers. But we know that we're not looking at having trailers in trying to see this in one compressed area. What we've been working on is putting trailers in commercial pads that already have water and sewer hookups. And I think we've already placed, and there's one about, I'm looking at Lillian. My last count was like 26 of those homes have been placed. We have 2 Pacific pads we're working on, but the majority of what FEMA has been working on outside of trailers is a program called direct leasing, where they're working with existing apartment complexes that have vacancies, that they can put people into apartments. That is, I guess, one of the preferred methods for them as well. So you wouldn't see as many trailers, or in old days, you would see pictures of tons of trailers just on vacant lots. That is not the model we've been looking at here in Buncombe County. We've been really working on getting existing short-term rentals or apartment complexes to lease to FEMA, and that's an 18-month lease that they're looking at. So that's the model that I think FEMA is working on right now.
Thank you, Avril. Just a little follow-up on that. Do we know about the number of apartments that we're looking at? Because I believe at last count, there are about 3,000 people in the TSA. I know we're still working on who's eligible, but do you think you'll be able to get most of those people transitioned into these apartment complexes?
So your 3,000 number was all of Western North Carolina, not just Buncombe County. And I was talking about the direct leasing in Buncombe County specifically. Yes, FEMA put an RFP out, and it's still open for folks that have vacancies or SDRs. And what FEMA has been reporting to us is they did get some response. Now, what is holding up that program is the vetting that FEMA must do for every single person that wants to live. They want to make sure they can, if you have a family, let's say of 8 or 9, you have enough bedroom size that we can fit people in. So that's what's happening now with FEMA. And yes, they're going through that process, and they have reported to us that did get enough interest in apartment complexes and SDR rentals to staff and to house these individuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything in the chat, Angelica? Nothing in the chat. Additional questions from members of the media?
If I could, do have one more. You all kind of covered it, but about the FCC complaints, I know you said that they are aware of them. Do you know what specifically they attribute to a lot of the complaints coming in? Is it just the transitioning, or were they maybe not prepared for the routes, as many people that they needed?
So like Avril touched on, they have increased the number of trucks they have. They've increased the number of staff they have, and they've also increased the number of customer service staff that they have. So, this process started several months ago for people signing up. Yeah. So this process started several months ago for people signing up for the new service. And of course, we had a storm in the middle of that. So getting the new staff hired and the drivers familiar with the routes and ready to go has been a little bit more complicated than under a normal situation when you don't come in right after a devastating event where even some of our roads and bridges remain closed, right? So what we're seeing, I just got some messages on social media from today is the Swannanoa route. And I know our driver in my neighborhood caught me running out to the street at 6:45 this morning with my can, and he was real nice and gave me a honk and waited for me to get my can out. And so what we're hearing from folks in Swannanoa, things are going smoother today, and we'll continue to see that. But we have been meeting with FCC leadership regularly to go over all of the complaints that we're receiving, the situation tracker that folks can access at www.buncombecounty.org/solid waste. And we're working through those. We know we've heard that wait times for customer service have been long. They are training more staff, and I think it was 8 more yesterday, 6 to 8 more yesterday, who they're bringing on board. And so it takes a little bit to get that knowledge for the delivery of service in this community, but they are getting up to speed faster. And we've been working really closely with them on that and setting some performance targets.
And just one more lastly, with the deadline coming up on February 6th for FEMA, can we expect a slowdown of people getting help? I know a lot of money's pending and transitional housing and a lot of different things, especially with another natural disaster happening on the West Coast.
So the transitional housing is going down, which is good. That's what you want to see. Rental assistance is increasing. So I think what we'll see, not necessarily is, a major cliff or anything like that, but we'll see the ways in which FEMA is providing assistance shifting to a more long-term approach so that we can get folks home. Ideally, what everyone wants to do is be home. And that's what FEMA is helping us do through these assistance programs.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Madison.
Hey Lillian, it's John Boyle from Asheville Watchdog.
I was going to be worried if I didn't hear from you in one way or another.
I've got a couple debris questions, but I'm assuming no one's there from the city to address water. Clay's not here today.
Clay will be here next week, I think is what I understand. You can
Okay,
also you can reach out to their media line for questions.
yeah, I'll send them these
and
directly.
media.
But on debris, I've had a couple readers asking me where all the debris is going, which I know y'all have addressed somewhat before, and if it's going to the landfill, what the capacity is there.
We really are trying. So the main reason why it's so important that folks use the debris program is to divert materials from the landfill to the extent that we can. Our landfill has a limited lifespan, and I think folks know that we don't have a whole lot of developable property in this community to build new landfills because they require so much space. So we are separating that debris, vegetative, construction, all of the above, into different piles. And then that's why you'll see like a debris truck will come through and they'll pick up one thing, not the other. They are focused on maybe that vegetative debris on that route. And that gets diverted to a location. We are trucking debris to other states in order to help preserve the lifespan of our landfill, right? Like that's very important to us so that it can be here as a resource to our residents for a long time. And diverting that debris will help us do so.
Okay, the debris the vegetative material that's being ground up, where does that end up going?
So with vegetative debris, that's one that's going to Tennessee. I know we've got other debris that's going to South Carolina. So it sounds like maybe you have a bigger question there. Are you asking if
Yeah,
that's
just folks have asked about if they can get mulch from it. And then people are mainly they're concerned about filling up the landfill, which it sounds like y'all are taking pains not to do. So
Yeah, we're concerned about that too. We do not, as part of that debris program, we do not have a program for folks to get free mulch, but you can get mulch from the landfill. It's not mulch. It's not something you want at your house that will be helpful for your gardening efforts or lawn care efforts.
right.
It's just
And
reducing the size of it such that it's easier to transport.
Right. Okay. And then when you say it's going to Tennessee and South Carolina, I think you said, is it going to landfills in those states?
It's going to dedicated debris management locations. So not necessarily public landfills that are being used in those communities, but specific locations that are debris management sites for other municipalities that may have similar needs, maybe just on a smaller scale.
And last question, you might as well look this up, but do you know how many years are left on the Buncombe County landfill?
No.
You can get that
We
to
can
me later
follow
if you
up
want.
with you via email on
Yeah.
that, John, but that's not
I
a
know
number
they've
that stays in my
they've
brain.
had that in years past. they say it's like a 20-year lifespan or something on it. So that's fine if you want to follow up on
Yeah, you won that round of Stump the Chump.
that. All right. That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Additional questions from the media? Just a reminder, all of the information that we shared today and more can be found on our website at buncombecounty.org. Our call center remains open. You can give us a ring at 828-250-6100. You can ask questions about Helene recovery, debris, residential trash pickup. So feel free to give us a ring at that call center at 828-250-6100. We are thankful that the winter storm last weekend was not more severe. But we know that the extended forecast, sometimes snowflakes are making their way into that long-term forecast. Please sign up for our alerts. We'll keep you posted on operational changes, emergency information, and more. Just text BC Alert, all one word, doesn't matter if it's lowercase or not, to 99411 or go to buncombecounty.org/code red. We can get you signed up for those alerts and you can stay in the loop on the latest things as they develop in our community. Reminder, we're once a week on Wednesdays at 11 for our community briefings, and we'll see you next week.